Welcome to Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today, it is my honor to have T. Clay Buck on with us.
Here's a story of a fundraiser who was launching his very own web show. Each episode is very short due to edits, so it can really flow. Here's a story of a podcast guest star who was busy raising money of their own. They were each great in their own way, fundraising in its own. Till the one day when Jack asked a guest to join him, and they knew it was much more than a jest, that these guests must somehow form a resource. That's the way they all became the podcast guests. The podcast guests. The podcast guests. That's the way they became the podcast guests.
T. Clay Buck has been in fundraising for over 30 years. Clay, the T is silent, held just about every position in fundraising, from development assistant to grant writer to chief development officer. He started his own individual giving and fundraising communications consulting firm in 2018. He's the creator of the Fundraiser's Planner and co-host of the #1 fundraising podcast, Fundraising is Funny. Clay makes his home in Las Vegas, Nevada, where he teaches strategic planning and fundraising at UNLV, and is owned by two poorly trained golden retrievers who've mastered the art of the ask, especially at dinner time. So welcome, Clay.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
One of my pet peeves is when you get that letter at the end of December saying, hey, the end of the year is coming, got to give you a gift. I'm like, firstly, no one is relying on you to tell me when the new year is.
Okay.
I have Dick Clark's glittery ball to tell me that.
Right?
And secondly, does that mean that you aren't going to accept my gift in January?
Oh my gosh. This just crawls up my skin. Last chance. Really? So tomorrow, I can't give to your nonprofit. Tomorrow you're literally going to turn my money away. Okay.
Right. It's such a stupid thing.
I wish more than anything that we as a profession and as a sector could learn how to get ahead. And when I mean, I don't want to praise myself over anyway, whatever, right? What I try to teach and what I try to do with my clients, with my work, is I want to be raising next year's money today, not this year's money. By the time a fiscal year starts, when you start a fiscal year, when you start a new fundraising cycle, if you do not have a list or a measurement of donors and how much you could theoretically expect from them, and you've got $1 million goal this year, and on July 1st, you don't have $1 million in prospects, I'm worried about you, because the time to build that prospect list was 2 years ago, not this year, right?
Right.
How it is the question, one of the many questions that I ask frequently and keeps me up at night is, how do we get to future thinking? There's a fantastic book, How to Be a Good Ancestor, which brings into business perspective the concept of thinking about the seventh generation. What are we doing today that will impact? There's that saying, societies grow rich, societies grow greater when old men plant trees they know they will never sit under, right? If we could get to that point as fundraisers, that the relationships that I'm investing in today are the ones that are going to be part of funding. And I think we have lost a lot of this by focusing so much on transactional fundraising, right? I do not mean, mass market direct mail. I don't mean mass market. I mean focusing on donors as the amount that they can give versus the relationship that they can bring into and become a part of this mission as a whole.
I couldn't agree more, Clay. Actually, my father-in-law is in real estate, and he gets paid when deals close.
Right.
So sometimes, over COVID or whatever it is, deals took a heck of a lot longer to close than they normally would. So there was a charity that he used to give to on a regular basis, and they called him up and he said, listen, he said, times are tight. He says, I haven't had, dollars come in a long time. He says, I can give you a little bit now. He says, but if you just stick with me, until we're through this, he says, I guarantee it will be worth your while. And what do you think the charity did?
I'm afraid.
They took the money now.
I'm afraid.
They took the money now.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, we have our goals to meet. And he was so disenfranchised.
Sure.
And rightfully so.
Sure.
Because then you just become a bank machine.
Right. Right. It is the hardest part of being a fundraiser because we have to live. Fundraisers live in a lot of gaps, right? And those gaps are very difficult for us. We live in the gap of collecting stories very often, depending on our mission, of people in situations worst times in their lives, right? For very many, well, for many, right? We're talking about situations that are sometimes our beneficiaries the worst thing that has happened to them, right? So we live in that gap and we're collecting that story and then we're telling that story out. So we're the conduit of this stressing emotional storytelling, number one. Number two, we also live in the gap. I beg your pardon, excuse me. We live in the gap between, we have $1 in financial goal to reach, and reaching that goal means some really touchy-feely, emotional relationship building is the best way to do it. That doesn't always translate into revenue generation. Our challenge is to bridge that too, and our leadership is forcing us into that goal-oriented, and we're over here going, I know I'm not in the office all day because I'm meeting all of these different people and starting relationships, building relationships, and you're putting pressure on me going, like there was one organization that I worked with, which, the first message was, well, you're always in your office. You're always you got your head in your computer. You say you're doing data, but you can't fundraise if you're not out in the community. And then 6 months later, it was, you're never in the office. Nobody knows where you are. Nobody's what you're doing. Well, you can't have it both ways, right? Or you'd come back to, you'd come in the office, you're in the suit, everybody else is in, their casual office wear. You're gone for 4 hours. You walk back in the door and everybody, ha, ha, ha. Where's the check? Did you bring back a check? Because you're telling me you value me for the money I'm bringing in, not for my skill set, right? So we live in this tough gap that is hard to manage. And sometimes it is just easier to give into the goals, right? Just doing what has to get the money because I'm burnt, I'm toast, I'm crispy. It's a hard place to be.
Right, because it's, you can measure whether, there's money there, but it's really hard to measure if you're having, meetings with folks on a regular basis and bringing them into the fold, if that's actually moving an agenda or if it's just a waste of time.
Right.
So it's hard for, and to be honest, not everyone that you meet with is going to become a significant donor.
Well, then why are you wasting your time with them? For heaven's sake, I don't know. I just met them, right?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Well, are we on Melinda Gates? Have you reached out to Melinda Gates?
Yeah.
No, I haven't reached because everybody and their brother is reaching out to Melinda Gates. I'm reaching out to Melinda Smith down the street, who came to our event 3 months ago, and we haven't talked to since, right? It is a very, very frustrating place to be, and I am here for all of the championing and encouraging and putting our arms around fundraisers and repeatedly, you are important and valued and needed and are doing good work. And if nobody in your office is telling you that, then call us, because we'll tell you how wonderful you are and how hard your job is. And honestly, between you and me, I tend to beat up fundraisers a lot. Oh, retention rates are terrible. You got to send thank you notes. Well, look, a lot of us are doing the best we can with the pressures and the time and everything that's put on us. A lot of us are doing the best we can, right?
And every time someone from the team leaves, well, they have a relationship. So now you have to start from square one, right? So it's, and people don't realize.
You know why you have to start from square one? Because in a lot of instances, nobody tracked the data, the relationship. You've got this person on your list that gave $10,000. You have no idea why. There's no paperwork. There's no backup. There's no nothing. And you got to start at ground zero. The number of times I have stepped into organizations as an employee and had to call donors and go, so tell me, how did you get involved? And they're like, look, I've been giving you for 10 years and you don't know? Come on. See, I literally just said we beat up on fundraisers too much, and then I beat up on fundraisers for not taking notes and managing data. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, but
we do. Yeah. Clay, this has been unbelievable. I really appreciate the time that you've given. If folks wanted to get hold of you, how would they go about doing that?
Reach out on LinkedIn. I'm very engaged and respond on LinkedIn. You can also find me online at tcbfundraising.com and reach out to me that way. And I make the circuit. I'm at conferences and stuff. So if you happen to see me or want to cross me, just come say hi. But I'm always open for the conversation. Look forward to talking with folks. Yeah.
Wow. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.